For 200 years, Earth had been a planet wrapped in silence. Every attempt to send signals into the vastness of space had failed. No matter how much effort humanity poured into broadcasting its existence, nothing came back. It was as if an invisible wall surrounded Earth, blocking every message from reaching beyond. People called it the block. Some thought it was a natural phenomenon like cosmic interference or radiation belts. Others believed something or someone was deliberately keeping Earth isolated. Daniel Carter sat in his small office at the Global Space Research Institute, staring at a computer screen filled with lines of data. His fingers tapped rhythmically on the desk as he scrolled through endless streams of numbers and graphs. Daniel wasn't the kind of person who sought attention. He preferred quiet spaces where he could focus on solving problems that baffled others. For years, he had worked tirelessly to understand why Earth signals never reached their intended destinations. But tonight, something felt different. Across the room, Laura Bennett leaned over another monitor, her sharp eyes scanning the same data. Unlike Daniel, Laura thrived on challenges. She had a reputation for being relentless when it came to finding answers. Her colleagues often joked that she wouldn't sleep until she solved whatever puzzle lay before her. Tonight, though, even Laura seemed uneasy. There was an odd pattern in the readings they were analyzing, a faint ripple in the electromagnetic spectrum that didn't match anything they'd seen before. "Daniel," Laura said suddenly, breaking the silence. "Look at this." He turned his chair and rolled closer to her screen. The graph displayed what appeared to be random noise at first glance, but upon closer inspection there were distinct fluctuations within the signal. They weren't chaotic. They followed a sequence almost like a code. "Could it be interference?" Daniel asked cautiously. Laura shook her head. "I don't think so. This isn't random. It's too precise. Look here." She pointed to a section of the graph where the fluctuations repeated themselves in intervals. "It's artificial. Someone or something is sending us a message." Before either of them could process the implications, the signal changed. Without warning, it locked onto Earth's frequency. Every device connected to the global communication network lit up with the same message flashing across screens. "You are not alone." At first, no one knew how to react. Was this the moment humanity had waited centuries for? First contact with intelligent life beyond Earth? Or was it a threat? Governments scrambled to respond. Military leaders convened emergency meetings, while scientists debated whether the message was genuine or some elaborate hoax. Daniel and Laura were summoned to a secure facility outside Washington, D.C., where top officials gathered to discuss the situation. The room buzzed with tension as representatives from various countries argued about what to do next. Some wanted to reply immediately, hoping to establish peaceful relations. Others urged caution, fearing the unknown intentions behind the message. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood near the front of the room, listening intently. A tall man with graying hair and a calm demeanor, Ryan had spent decades serving in the military. He had seen his share of crises, but none quite like this. When the floor opened for suggestions, he stepped forward. "We can't ignore this," Ryan said firmly. "If we do, we risk losing our chance to learn more. But we also can't rush into things blindly. We need to gather information before making any decisions." His words resonated with many in the room, including Laura. She raised her hand to speak. "There's more to the signal than just the message. It contains coordinates. If we follow them, we might find whoever or whatever sent it." The idea sparked heated debate. Sending a mission into deep space carried significant risks, especially given the uncertainty surrounding the sender's motives. Still, the prospect of finally breaking free from isolation proved too tempting to dismiss outright. After hours of discussion, a decision was made. A fleet would be assembled to investigate the coordinates, and Ryan would lead the operation. As preparations began, Daniel approached Ryan privately. "Do you really think this is wise?" he asked. "Whoever blocked us for so long clearly didn't want us communicating with the outside world. What makes you think they'll welcome visitors now?" Ryan sighed. "I don't know, Daniel. Maybe they won't. But staying silent hasn't protected us either. At least this way we'll have answers." With that, Ryan turned and walked away, leaving Daniel to ponder the weight of their decision. The coming days would test humanity's courage, and perhaps its survival. Back at the Institute, Laura worked late into the night, poring over the signal's details. She couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. For 2 centuries, Earth had been a lonely outpost in the cosmos. Now it seemed the universe was finally reaching out. Whether humanity was ready for what awaited remained to be seen. By morning, news of the fleet's impending launch spread across the globe. Reactions varied wildly. Some celebrated the possibility of meeting extraterrestrial life, while others feared the worst. Protests erupted in major cities demanding transparency from governments. Conspiracy theories flourished online, speculating about hidden agendas and alien invasions. Through it all, Daniel and Laura remained focused on their work. They knew the journey ahead would be fraught with danger, but they also understood the stakes. Humanity's future depended on uncovering the truth behind the block and the mysterious beings who had imposed it. As the fleet prepared for departure, hope and fear mingled in equal measure, setting the stage for a voyage that would change everything. The days following the mysterious signal were a blur of activity. Governments worked around the clock to prepare the fleet, while scientists like Daniel Carter and Laura Bennett scrambled to decode more information from the message. Each new discovery only deepened the mystery. The coordinates embedded in the signal pointed to a location far beyond Pluto, near the edge of the solar system. It was a region humanity had barely explored, shrouded in darkness and cold. Laura spent hours analyzing the patterns within the signal. She noticed subtle shifts in its structure, almost as if it were evolving. At first, the message had been simple: "You are not alone." But now, fragments of additional data appeared, hinting at advanced technology and cryptic warnings. Some parts suggested that Earth was in danger, while others implied that help could be found at the destination. Laura shared her findings with Daniel, who grew increasingly uneasy. "This doesn't feel right," Daniel said one evening as they reviewed the latest updates. "Why would someone send us coordinates after blocking us for so long? What's waiting out there?" Laura shrugged. "We won't know unless we go. And honestly, Daniel, I think we've already made up our minds. Humanity can't just sit here and do nothing." Daniel nodded reluctantly. He knew she was right. Staying silent hadn't protected Earth before, and ignoring the signal now felt equally reckless. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Mitchell oversaw the final preparations for the mission. The fleet consisted of 3 ships: the flagship Odyssey, a heavily armed vessel designed for combat; the Pioneer, equipped with advanced research tools; and the Eclipse, a smaller craft built for reconnaissance. Each ship carried a mix of military personnel, scientists, and engineers. Among them were Lieutenant Emma Hayes, an expert navigator known for her quick thinking, and Dr. Nathan Brooks, a xenobiologist eager to study alien life. Emma stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, running simulations of the journey ahead. She traced their planned route across star charts, marking potential hazards along the way. Though confident in her abilities, she couldn't ignore the enormity of the task. They were venturing farther than any human mission before, into territory no one truly understood. "Lieutenant," Ryan called from behind her. "How's it looking?" Emma turned to face him. "The path is clear for now, sir, but once we pass Neptune, we'll be relying mostly on guesswork. There's no telling what we might encounter." Ryan nodded. "Understood. Keep me updated if anything changes." "Yes, sir," Emma replied, returning to her work. Dr. Nathan Brooks, meanwhile, was busy preparing his equipment. He moved through the cramped lab aboard the Pioneer, organizing samples and calibrating instruments. Nathan had always dreamed of encountering extraterrestrial life, but now that the moment was near, he felt a strange mix of excitement and dread. What if the beings they met weren't friendly? What if they posed a threat to Earth? As the launch date approached, public opinion remained divided. Protesters gathered outside space agencies worldwide, holding signs that read, "Don't wake the monsters," and stay safe, stay home. Others cheered the mission, waving flags and chanting slogans about exploration and unity. Social media buzzed with speculation, ranging from wild theories about ancient aliens to fears of interstellar war. Finally, the day arrived. Thousands gathered at the launch site to watch as the fleet ascended into the sky. Fire and smoke billowed from the engines, lighting up the horizon. For a brief moment, the world seemed united, watching humanity take its first real step toward the stars. Once in space, the fleet settled into formation, moving steadily toward the coordinates. Days passed uneventfully, giving the crew time to adjust to life aboard the ships. Meals were shared in cramped mess halls, and downtime was spent playing cards or exercising in zero gravity. Despite the camaraderie, tension lingered beneath the surface. Everyone knew the mission was dangerous, and no one could predict what awaited them at their destination. On the 10th day, the fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune. From here, they entered uncharted territory. The view outside the windows shifted from the familiar blue and green hues of Earth to the stark blackness of deep space. Stars twinkled faintly in the distance, offering little comfort against the vast emptiness. It was during this stretch of the journey that the first anomaly occurred. Sensors aboard the Pioneer detected a sudden spike in radiation levels. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to identify the source. Nathan rushed to the bridge, clutching a tablet displaying preliminary readings. "Captain," he said urgently, "there's something out there, something big." Ryan studied the data. "Can you pinpoint its location?" Nathan shook his head. "Not yet. Whatever it is, it's moving fast." Moments later, the object revealed itself. A massive shadow, gliding silently through the void. Its shape was indistinct, but it radiated an eerie energy that set everyone on edge. Emma adjusted the ship's trajectory to avoid a collision, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "What do you think it is?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Ryan admitted. "But it's not natural." The shadow disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, leaving the fleet shaken but intact. Questions swirled among the crew. Had they encountered one of the beings responsible for the block? Or was it something else entirely? Back on Earth, Daniel and Laura monitored the fleet's progress closely. News of the shadow reached them via encrypted transmissions, adding another layer of mystery to the mission. Laura leaned forward in her chair, staring at the screen. "Do you think they're being watched?" she asked Daniel. He frowned. "Probably. Whoever sent the signal knows we're coming. They might even be testing us." Laura nodded slowly. "If that's true, then we'd better be ready for whatever comes next." As the fleet continued onward, the sense of isolation grew stronger. Communication delays with Earth stretched longer, reminding everyone just how far they had traveled. Morale fluctuated, with some crew members growing restless while others found solace in routine. Ryan held regular meetings to address concerns and keep spirits high, but even he struggled to maintain optimism. One evening, as the fleet drew closer to the coordinates, Emma voiced a thought that had been troubling her. "What happens when we get there?" she asked during dinner. "Do we just knock on the door and say hello?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. No one knew what lay ahead, but they all understood the stakes. This wasn't just a mission to explore the unknown. It was a test of humanity's ability to adapt, survive, and coexist with forces beyond comprehension. By the time the fleet reached the designated location, anticipation had reached a fever pitch. The coordinates led them to a dense cluster of asteroids orbiting a dying star. As they navigated the field, sensors picked up traces of metallic structures hidden among the rocks. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Whatever they had come to find, it was close. And then suddenly it appeared. A colossal ring-shaped station hovering silently in space. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the dim light of the distant sun. The sight left everyone speechless. Humanity had finally found proof of intelligent life beyond Earth, but whether it was friend or foe remained to be seen. Ryan broke the silence. All hands prepare for contact. This is it. The fleet slowed to a halt, its engines humming softly as the crew braced for the unknown. For better or worse, the journey was over. Now came the hardest part, facing the truth behind the block and discovering what the universe truly held in store for humanity. The colossal ring-shaped station loomed before the fleet, its surface shimmering like liquid metal under the faint glow of the distant star. It was massive, far larger than any human-made structure. The sheer scale of it made the ships seem tiny and fragile in comparison. As the crew stared out the windows, a mix of awe and unease settled over them. This was no ordinary discovery. It was proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. But what kind of beings had built this? And why had they blocked Earth? For so long, Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, his eyes fixed on the station. "All hands prepare for contact," he ordered. His voice was calm, but tension crackled beneath the surface. He turned to Lieutenant Emma Hayes, who was seated at the navigation console. "Emma, keep us steady. We don't know what this thing is capable of." "Yes, sir," Emma replied, her fingers moving swiftly across the controls. She adjusted the ship's position, maintaining a safe distance from the station while scanning it for weaknesses or threats. So far, there was no sign of hostility, but that didn't mean they were safe. Dr. Nathan Brooks joined them on the bridge, clutching a tablet filled with data. "I've never seen anything like this," he said, his voice tinged with both excitement and fear. "It's not just big, it's advanced. Look at the energy readings. This thing is alive." "Alive?" Ryan asked sharply. Nathan nodded. "Not in the biological sense, but it's generating power on a scale we can't even comprehend. It's reacting to our presence." Before anyone could respond, the station emitted a pulse of light that rippled through space. For a moment, everything went dark. Alarms blared as systems across the fleet faltered. Communication lines went dead, leaving the ships isolated from one another. Panic spread among the crew, but Ryan's voice cut through the chaos. "Stay calm," he barked. "Check your systems. Report back when you're online." Slowly, the fleet regained control. The pulse had disabled non-essential functions, but critical systems remained intact. Emma worked quickly to restore navigation, her brow furrowed in concentration. "We're stable, Captain," she reported. "But I don't think we should get any closer," Ryan agreed. "Hold position, let's see what happens next." Moments later, a holographic figure materialized on the bridge of the Odyssey. It was humanoid in shape, though its form flickered and shifted as if struggling to maintain solidity. Its features were indistinct, but its presence commanded attention. When it spoke, its voice echoed with an otherworldly resonance. "You have arrived," it said simply. "I am Kale, a representative of the Sentinels." The crew exchanged stunned glances. After centuries of silence, humanity finally had a name for the beings behind the block. But Ryan didn't let his guard down. "What do you want?" he demanded. Kyle tilted its head, as if considering the question. "To warn you," it replied. "Your species has been quarantined for your own protection and ours. The fractured are coming." "The fractured?" Nathan repeated, stepping forward. "What are they?" "They are corruption incarnate," Kyle explained. "A force that consumes and destroys everything it touches. They feed on energy, spreading chaos wherever they go. We blocked your signals to prevent them from detecting you, but now they know you exist." The room fell silent as the crew processed the revelation. Humanity had been kept in the dark not out of malice but to shield it from a greater threat. Still, Ryan couldn't ignore the implications. "If the fractured are such a danger, why didn't you intervene sooner?" he asked. Kale hesitated, its form flickering again. "We underestimated your resilience and your potential. Now we need your help to stop them." Laura Bennett watched the exchange from Earth, where she and Daniel Carter monitored the mission via delayed transmissions. The delay meant they were always several hours behind, but Laura's mind raced ahead. If the Sentinels were telling the truth, then humanity faced a choice: trust these alien beings or face the fractured alone. They're asking us to fight their war, Daniel muttered, pacing the lab. How do we know this isn't a trick? Laura shook her head. We don't. But if the fractured really are as dangerous as Kale says, ignoring them isn't an option either. Back aboard the Odyssey, Ryan weighed the situation carefully. What exactly do you expect us to do? He asked Kale. We will equip you with weapons and technology to combat the fractured, Kale replied. In return, you must assist us in defending this region of space. Together, we can halt their advance. The offer sounded tempting, but Ryan wasn't ready to commit. Give us time to consider, he said, and prove you're trustworthy. Kale nodded slowly. Very well, but time is short. The fractured are already near your solar system. With that, the hologram vanished, leaving the crew to deliberate. Opinions varied widely. Some believed working with the Sentinels was their best chance at survival, while others argued it was too risky. Emma voiced her concerns during a meeting later that day. This feels wrong, she said. They've been watching us for centuries, without lifting a finger. Why start now? They're scared, Nathan countered. If the fractured are as bad as they say, maybe they realize they can't handle it alone. Ryan listened to the debate, weighing each argument. In the end, he made a decision. We'll accept their help for now, but we stay vigilant. If the Sentinels cross us, we act. Over the next few days, the Sentinels provided the fleet with advanced weaponry and tools. The crew marveled at the technology, which seemed almost magical compared to anything humanity had developed. Weapons capable of disintegrating matter, shields that absorbed energy attacks, and sensors that could detect threats miles away. All of it was beyond comprehension. But with great power came great responsibility, and Ryan reminded everyone of that daily. As the fleet prepared for battle, Nathan grew uneasy. He spent hours studying the Sentinels' equipment, noticing subtle details that didn't add up. One night, he confronted Laura via video link. Something's off, he told her. Their tech is incredible, but some of it looks forced, like they're hiding something. Laura frowned. What do you mean? I mean, what if the Sentinels aren't just protecting us? What if they're using us as bait? The idea sent a chill down Laura's spine. She relayed the information to Daniel, who immediately began analyzing the data. Hours later, he uncovered files suggesting the Sentinels had manipulated Earth's history, not just by blocking signals, but by influencing events to control humanity's development. When Nathan shared his findings with Ryan, the captain called another meeting. We need to be careful, he warned the crew. The Sentinels may not have our best interests at heart. Kale appeared once more, summoned by Ryan's suspicions. You doubt us, it said, its tone neutral. We have reason to. Ryan replied. Why did you manipulate Earth's history? Why wait so long to intervene? Kale hesitated before answering. We acted to ensure your survival. Left unchecked, your species would have destroyed itself, or attracted the fractured sooner. The explanation did little to ease tensions. Though Ryan decided to proceed with the alliance, for now, he ordered the crew to remain cautious. Trust, he reminded them, had to be earned. Finally, the fleet received word of the fractured's location. They had gathered near Saturn's moons, amassing a swarm of corrupted drones. The stage was set for humanity's first encounter with the enemy. As the ships approached the battlefield, fear and determination mingled among the crew. They had come a long way from Earth, driven by curiosity and courage. Now they would face the ultimate test. Ryan addressed the fleet one last time. This is it, he said. No matter what happens, remember why we're here. Not just to survive, but to protect the future of our species. With those words, the fleet entered the fray, ready to confront the shadows that lurked beyond the stars. The fleet moved cautiously toward Saturn's moons where the fractured had gathered. The closer they got, the more ominous the scene became. Swarms of drones floated in chaotic patterns, their shapes constantly shifting as if alive. They radiated an eerie energy that made the crew uneasy. These weren't machines, they were something far worse. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, his eyes scanning the battlefield ahead. "Emma," he said, turning to Lieutenant Emma Hayes, "keep us at a safe distance, for now. We need to assess their movements before we engage." "Yes, sir," Emma replied, her hands steady on the controls. She adjusted the ship's trajectory, positioning it behind one of Saturn's larger moons. From this vantage point, they could observe without being detected, at least for the moment. Dr. Nathan Brooks studied the drones through the ship's sensors. His brow furrowed as he analyzed the data streaming across his tablet. "These things don't follow normal logic," he muttered. "They're not just attacking blindly. They seem coordinated." "What do you mean?" Ryan asked sharply. "They're adapting," Nathan explained. "Every time we scan them, their patterns change. It's like they're learning from us." Ryan nodded grimly. "Then we'll have to be smarter than they are. Emma, prepare the weapons. Make sure the Sentinels' tech is fully operational." As the crew prepared for battle, Laura Bennett and Daniel Carter back on Earth worked tirelessly to support the mission. Using the information transmitted by the fleet, they attempted to decode the fractured's behavior. Laura noticed subtle fluctuations in their energy signatures, patterns that hinted at vulnerabilities. "We might be able to disrupt them," she told Daniel excitedly. "If we can send a counter-signal, it could confuse their coordination." Daniel hesitated. "Are you sure? What if it backfires?" "We don't have time to second-guess ourselves," Laura replied firmly. "Send me the frequency specs. I'll relay them to the fleet." Back aboard the Odyssey, Ryan received the transmission from Earth. He reviewed the plan with his team. "We'll use Laura's signal to disrupt the fractured's cohesion," he explained. "It won't destroy them, but it should give us an opening to strike." The fleet launched its attack moments later. The Pioneer fired the first volley, sending beams of energy slicing through the swarm. The drones scattered, momentarily, disoriented by the assault. But they quickly regrouped, retaliating with bursts of corrosive energy that battered the ship's shields. "Shields holding at 60%, Emma reported, her voice tense. "But they're closing in fast." "Keep firing," Ryan ordered. "Don't let them surround us." The battle raged on, each side exchanging blows in a deadly dance. The crew fought valiantly, using tactics Emma devised to outmaneuver the enemy. Dr. Nathan Brooks monitored the fractured's movements, feeding real-time data to the gunners. Despite their efforts, the drones kept coming, their numbers seemingly endless. Just when it seemed the fleet might be overwhelmed, Laura's signal took effect. A pulse of energy rippled through space, disrupting the fractured's coordination. Their movements faltered, giving the fleet a brief reprieve. "Now's our chance," Ryan shouted. "Hit them hard!" The ships unleashed everything they had, targeting key clusters within the swarm. Explosions lit up the void as drone after drone was destroyed. For a moment, victory seemed within reach. But then, something unexpected happened. Kale, the Sentinel representative, appeared on the bridge uninvited. Its holographic form flickered, betraying hints of agitation. "You must retreat," it urged. "This is only a fraction of their forces. Stay any longer, and you will be overrun," Ryan frowned. "We're not leaving until we finish this." "You misunderstand," Kale insisted. "The fractured are infinite. You cannot defeat them here. Your role is to weaken them, not annihilate them." Nathan stepped forward, his expression skeptical. "Why didn't you tell us this earlier? Why send us into a fight we can't win?" Kale hesitated, its form shimmering slightly. "Because we needed to test your resolve. And your capabilities. You have proven yourselves worthy allies." The admission sparked outrage among the crew. They had been used as pawns in the Sentinels, game sent into battle without knowing the full truth. Ryan clenched his fists, struggling to contain his anger. "You manipulated us," he growled. "How can we trust you now?" "There is no time for distrust," Kale replied coldly. "The fractured are regrouping. If you stay, you will die." Reluctantly, Ryan gave the order to withdraw. The fleet retreated to a safer distance, leaving the remaining drones behind. As they regrouped, the crew grappled with feelings of betrayal and frustration. They had fought bravely, only to learn they were expendable in the Sentinels' eyes. "We can't keep following their rules," Nathan said during a heated meeting. "They've lied to us from the start. Who's to say they won't turn on us next?" Laura's voice crackled over the communication link. "He's right," she said firmly. "If the Sentinels see us as tools, then we need to prove them." "Wrong. Humanity has to stand on its own," Ryan agreed. "From now on, we operate independently. No more taking orders from Kale or anyone else." With renewed determination, the fleet devised a new strategy. Using the knowledge gained from the battle, they began reverse engineering the Sentinels' technology. Laura and Daniel provided crucial insights, helping the crew modify their weapons and defenses. Slowly but surely, they transformed the fleet into a force capable of standing alone. Meanwhile, tensions between the humans and the Sentinels escalated. Kyle attempted to reassert control, demanding compliance in exchange for continued support. But Ryan refused to yield. "We're done being your puppets," he declared. "If you want to fight the fractured, do it yourself." Kale's response was chilling. "Very well, but remember this. When the fractured come for you, we will not intervene." The threat hung heavy in the air, but the crew remained resolute. They had faced impossible odds before and emerged stronger. Now they would rely on their own ingenuity and courage to survive. As the fleet prepared for the next phase of the conflict, Nathan made a startling discovery. While examining captured fragments of the fractured, he uncovered evidence of their origin. "They weren't always like this," he told Ryan. "Something corrupted them, something artificial." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the fractured weren't born evil," Nathan replied. "They were made that way. And if we can figure out how, maybe we can stop them for good." The revelation offered a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak situation. Armed with this new knowledge, the fleet set course for a nearby asteroid field, where remnants of the fractured's corruption node were believed to be hidden. Destroying it could cripple their enemies, or provoke a devastating retaliation. The ships approached the location. The crew braced for another fight. They had defied the Sentinels, survived the fractured, and forged their own path. But the hardest battles still lay ahead. Humanity's future depended on their ability to adapt, persevere, and face the unknown head-on. Ryan addressed the crew one last time. "We've come too far to turn back now. Whatever happens next, we face it together. For Earth, for humanity, for all of us." With those words, the fleet entered the asteroid field, ready to confront the shadows that threatened to engulf them. The asteroid field was a treacherous maze of jagged rocks and floating debris, lit dimly by the distant glow of Saturn. The fleet moved cautiously, weaving through the chaos as sensors scanned for any sign of the fractured's corruption node. Every shadow seemed to shift unnaturally, and tension aboard the ships ran high. The crew knew they were walking into a trap, but there was no turning back now. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, his eyes fixed on the screens displaying the ship's surroundings. "Emma," he said, addressing Lieutenant Emma Hayes at the navigation console, "keep us steady. We can't afford to hit anything out here." "Yes, sir," Emma replied, her hands moving deftly across the controls. She adjusted the ship's course, avoiding collisions with larger asteroids while maintaining speed. Despite her calm demeanor, she could feel the weight of what lay ahead pressing down on her. Dr. Nathan Brooks worked furiously in the lab aboard the Pioneer, analyzing data from earlier encounters with the fractured. His discovery about their origins had sparked hope, but it also raised questions. What had corrupted them? And could reversing that process truly stop them? He shared his findings with Laura Bennett and Daniel Carter, who relayed updates to the fleet via delayed transmissions. "We need to find the source," Nathan explained during one such call. "If we destroy the node, it might disrupt their ability to spread." Laura nodded thoughtfully. "But be careful. If the fractured realize what you're doing, they'll come at you harder than ever." Back aboard the fleet, the search intensified. Sensors picked up faint traces of energy emanating from a cluster of asteroids deeper within the field. It matched the readings Nathan had identified as belonging to the corruption node. Ryan gave the order to investigate. As the ships approached the area, the air grew thick with anticipation. Then, without warning, the swarm of fractured drones appeared, surrounding the fleet in seconds. Their forms writhed and twisted, radiating hostility. Alarms blared as shields flared under the first wave of attacks. "Here we go again," Ryan muttered, gripping the railing of the bridge. "All hands, prepare for combat." The battle erupted with ferocity. The drones attacked relentlessly, their movements erratic yet calculated. The fleet fought back with everything they had, using weapons enhanced by Sentinel technology and tactics devised by Emma. Explosions lit up the void as ships exchanged fire with the enemy. Amidst the chaos, Nathan made a critical decision. He volunteered to lead a team onto one of the smaller ships, the Eclipse, to locate and disable the corruption node directly. "I'm the only one who understands how this thing works," he argued when Ryan hesitated. "If anyone has a chance of stopping it, it's me." Ryan reluctantly agreed, ordering a squad of soldiers to accompany him. As the Eclipse detached from the fleet and headed toward the heart of the asteroid field, the remaining ships provided cover fire. The crew watched anxiously as the small craft disappeared into the swarm. Inside the Eclipse, Nathan worked quickly, guiding the pilot through the dense field. His tablet displayed real-time scans of the area, pinpointing the exact location of the node. When they reached it, the sight was horrifying, a pulsating mass of blackened matter, oozing energy, that distorted space around it. Tendrils of corruption stretched outward, connecting to nearby drones. "This is it," Nathan whispered, his voice trembling. "We have to destroy it." The team deployed charges strategically, planting them near the core of the node. Time seemed to slow as they worked, every second feeling like an eternity. Outside, the fractured swarmed the ship, battering its hull with relentless force. "Hurry up," the pilot shouted over the comm. "We're not going to last much longer." Nathan ignored him, focusing on the task at hand. Just as he set the final charge, a massive drone slammed into the ship, breaching its hull. Air rushed out, pulling several crew members into the void. Nathan struggled to hold on, his grip slipping as the ship shuddered violently. Realizing there was no time left, Nathan activated the detonator remotely. "Get us out of here," he yelled. The pilot fired the engines, narrowly escaping the blast radius. Behind them, the corruption node exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending shockwaves rippling through the asteroid field. The fractured drones froze mid-attack, their forms collapsing into lifeless husks before dissipating entirely. Back aboard the Odyssey, the crew cheered as the swarm dissipated. Cheers turned to silence, however, when they realized the Eclipse hadn't returned. Moments later, a single escape pod drifted into view. Inside was Nathan, battered but alive. When he boarded the Odyssey, Ryan met him on the deck. "You did it," Ryan said simply, offering a hand to help him stand. Nathan shook his head. "We did it. Together." The victory was bittersweet. Though the fractured had been weakened significantly, the cost had been high. Lives were lost, and the scars of battle would linger long after they returned home. But humanity had proven itself capable of standing against overwhelming odds and surviving. As the fleet limped back toward Earth, news of their triumph spread across the planet. Celebrations erupted in cities worldwide, though tempered by mourning for those who hadn't returned. For the first time in centuries, humanity felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer isolated or powerless. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger. Laura and Daniel monitored the fleet's return from Earth, relief washing over them as the ships re-entered the solar system. "They did it," Laura said softly, tears in her eyes. "They actually did it," Daniel nodded. "And now the real work begins. We've shown the universe that we're ready to take our place among the stars, but we can't let our guard down." Kyle, the Sentinel representative, observed silently from afar. Though humanity had defied its expectations, it couldn't deny the resilience they had shown. Whether that made them allies or threats remained to be seen. When the fleet finally touched down on Earth, crowds gathered to welcome the heroes home. Ryan addressed the crowd, his voice steady despite the exhaustion etched on his face. This wasn't just a mission for survival. It was a test of who we are as a species. We faced fear, betrayal, and loss, but we never gave up. Today, we prove that humanity belongs among the stars. As the celebrations continued, plans were already underway to rebuild and fortify Earth's defenses. Communication arrays were upgraded, fortified against future interference. Exploratory missions were scheduled to expand humanity's reach beyond the solar system. The journey was far from over, but for the first time humanity walked it together, not as isolated individuals but as a united species. In the vastness of space, shadows still loomed. The fractured may have been weakened, but they weren't gone. And the Sentinels watched silently, their intentions unclear. Yet one truth remained undeniable. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, armed with courage, determination, and the unshakable belief that they could shape their own destiny. For better or worse, the stars awaited.